All right. Good afternoon, Amy. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am doing so well. So I'm excited to chat with you. You and I have been chatting a lot off recording in regards to what you're looking for in your background and experience. But in order to get where we're going, we got to know where you come from. So why don't you start by telling me a little bit about your last position and what a typical day looked like for you in this role?
So I'll tell you right now, I am currently the supply chain director of Capital Tacos. Um, I've been here about 6 months. So a typical day, we are doing a lot of standardization and process efficiencies. So the typical day looks like anything from I am implementing an inventory system to helping our chef team and our ops team figure out some standardized packaging that we're going to use. I also am working on a beer standardization project and just completed two huge contracts for our broadline distributors, both paper and food.
Great.
And then I'm working with vendors to look at new products that, to keep up with innovations, look at the market trends, determine if there's any price deviations we can work on to continue to gain that savings. And we are actually implementing Ecolab in our stores. So I'm retrofitting our current stores with new updated equipment. So
Fantastic.
a lot
Now
of,
you've a lot of moving parts, a lot of hats
yes.
that you're wearing. Now
Yeah,
you have always worked in the same type of position as,
correct.
director level, inventory manager, director of operations type of position, but you've also supported a few different industries. What industries have you supported in this type of role?
So I have culinary. I have supported culinary both at this job and at Busch Gardens. Previously, I was the supply chain director for United Vein and Vascular Centers. So that's medical. And then before that, I did HVAC wholesale. So
Okay.
wholesale stores. So I did that as well.
All
And
right.
the beginning of it was Verizon. So I helped
Okay.
with the telecommunication piece.
All right, fantastic. So now at any point in your career, so you can use any of these positions as reference,
Yes.
tell me about a time that you found a way to improve a process. How did you do it? How did you make it work? And what impact did it have overall?
So I think I will go ahead and stick with the current position I'm at, Capital Tacos. When I first got here, our order guides were very chaotic. It was a mess. We didn't have any lockdown. So our stores actually placed the orders and they could order whatever they wanted. So what I did is I worked with our paper distributor and actually set up individual order guides for to go, for catering, a sub guide for if something's out, like that gave us a approved spec that they could use in place of what was out, and then a smallware packaging as well guide. So that really streamlined the process. We're ramping up and opening a bunch of new stores, so that helps the ops teams as we go into the new locations understand what to order, and then it really helps the team in the stores understand, okay, this is the standardized packaging we're supposed to use, but if it's out, here's our alternative sub in the subcategory. I did the same thing with food as well, because we have had to, with the commodity and supply chain issues we're seeing currently, we've had to move back and forth between what's standard and then what's an alternative spec. So I've
Okay.
really dove into that, and it has definitely cleared up a lot of ordering that we've gotten stuff in the past that we should not have gotten. It's really streamlined the process, so it's easier for the teams to order, less time actually in the order guides, and more efficient ordering.
Fantastic. Now, in all of these processes, obviously, it's very important for you to have and develop and build relationships with your suppliers. What's one of your best practices?
So my best practices with suppliers, I am very adamant about vendor relationships. It's really important to me to partner with those suppliers. I like to touch base and have reviews every 6 months with them to determine what's working, what's not. I also like to source new products. So I actually work with a lot of manufacturers to see, what's new in the market. They can also talk about the trends that they're seeing, and determine, what could be impactful to us, and then how could we mitigate that. So, I was in the medical field during COVID, which was really a challenge. So we learned to really work with our suppliers and also source alternative suppliers to help combat that issue with not receiving a lot of equipment because the hospitals were receiving it versus our clinics. So I was able to really work with our suppliers, make sure they understood the forecast. If they didn't feel they could achieve that or send actually that material to us in a timely manner, then I would work with an alternative spec, communicate that out to the field so they knew what was coming, and then just continue to, build those relationships with the supplier so they could actually, help us and work together towards a common goal.
Fantastic. And I like that proactive approach. I like that you are thinking of which suppliers you need to start building those relationships before it's like D-Day. So I really like that approach. So let's talk a little bit about working with the numbers and the accounting side. So tell me about your exposure to budgeting, the purchasing. What is your involvement? What is your exposure?
So right now, I am the main one working with accounting, validating our pricing, working with our systems to make sure our price deviations are set up, working with accounting on rebates that we're actually receiving to validate that we're actually getting those rebates, when we're supposed to get them, and actually the timely manner, and what it should be. Previously at United Vein Centers, I worked very closely with accounting. We were setting up a inventory system as well there, and we had two different systems, so we had to make sure that both systems were talking to each other. So I worked frequently with accounting there, just to make sure there were no issues with discrepancies. They weren't overcharging us, trying to streamline the process as much as possible to make it easier for both of our departments, the purchasing and the AP department.
Fantastic. Okay, great. What software programs are you most fluent in aside from proprietary programs specifically for a company?
So right now I'm working with QSR, which is specific to the food industry. I am also fluent in SAP, Teams. I'm pretty fluent in Microsoft Office. Those are probably the programs I'm most fluent in.
Okay, fantastic. What would you say is your biggest strength that you will be bringing with you to your next company?
I'm going to say I have a couple that I'm really excited about. So I am really excited about leadership. I've really spent a lot of time developing my leadership style, being able to work with all aspects of the company, with stakeholders from, your end user in the field, at the location, in the restaurant, all the way up to the COO or CEO of the company, as well as the your controller. So I like to work with people. I like to collaborate. That's something I love to do. My previous position, I had 9 FTEs, and we were a really, really solid department. We worked a lot on collaborating and working together on projects and developing that team. So that's one. And then the other thing is I'm always looking at innovation, because if we're not looking at innovation, there's a lot of issues with labor shortages right now, and we have to figure out what the next steps are so we can move forward.
I love that. Again, your proactive approach. So that obviously is something that's embedded in all areas of your career, which is fantastic. All right. So what is the most important thing to you about the next company that you work for?
So I think culture. I've gotten to a point in my life where I'm really excited about the culture of the company. I really like that collaborative style, the culture that really embraces the employee and wants to work with them and see what kind of ideas and listens to everybody. And then we kind of figure out the best way to move forward. So culture is a really, really important aspect for me.
Fantastic. Amy, I appreciate you allowing me to record a portion of this interview. I'm going to stop the recording and the chat with you a little bit more, if that sounds good.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you.